Well, guys, today we're going to be discussing the hoaxer known as Pythagoras. And the reason why I call him that is because he is a hoaxer. What he did is he stole the Egyptian rope trick and turned it into his famous Pythagorean Theorem. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, to answer the question is, what the hell is the Egyptian rope trick? Well, I'm going to explain it to you. There's one sentence here about it, and I'll show you a picture of what it looks like. The ancient Egyptians used the string trick to create right triangles, or I should say right angles, when remeasuring their fields after the annual Nile floods washed out their boundary markers. Their skill with this and other surveying methods led to a widely held but falsely belief that the Egyptians invented geometry, geo-earth-metry measuring. Okay, here's what the Egyptian rope trick looks like. Here's what they used and what they're mentioning there. That's what it was. It was basically a rope with knots laid out at the same lengths. And with this, they measured any piece of land as long as the rope was long enough to measure it. Okay? So, having said that, we need to understand, well, how did Pythagoras get a hold of this? I mean, did he live in the right time? Well, Thales, okay, this goes back to Thales the Greek, supposedly picked up the string trick while traveling in Egypt, and it took it back to Greece. And some say that the Greek mathematician geometer Pythagoras described in Masonic lectures here. Pay attention to that. Oh, he's always described Masonic lectures as or worthy brother. Also went to Egypt and learned it there on his own. So we have a clear-cut case here where if Thales already went there and seen this, then obviously he came back and spread it to his friends, to only a few select few, which would be Pythagoras. Now let me describe Pythagoras at this time. Let's say a man in his 20s. He lived if you look at his date, now I'm going to show you when he was born. Okay, he was born in 575 BC. So if it was 595 BC, he's now 20 years old. Okay, imagine this 20-year-old being part of the elite. He must have been part of some massive, massive wealthy family. In order to be highly educated at that time in science, mathematics, astronomy, you had to be, I'm talking about super wealthy, because there weren't many schools back then, and most schools were, again, they were ran by wealthy people who wanted to keep the information only to a few people. By you teaching only certain people and controlling the people you teach information to, you can control the populace. And this is how the pyramid, okay, controls the bottom of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid controls the bottom. That's exactly how this works. Now, what happened with Pythagoras? What did he do that's so sinister? I'm going to explain it to you. Now, he was born in 575 BC and lived till the end of the century. Okay? He taught philosophy and mathematics in Crotone, a Dorian Greek colony in southern Italy. He founded the school which has come to be known as Pythagoreanism, and his students seem to be formed into a mystical society known as the Order of Pythagoras. The Order of Pythagoras, that means what you learn there, you don't talk about it outside. And it says, what we know as Pythagoras today came mostly from the writings of Diogenes Laertius. We cannot be certain that the teachings attributed to him were taught by him. They could have been ideas of a student. Now, he was taught by others. Okay? Nevertheless, they came from his school and have been commonly accepted as Pythagorean tradition. Now, let me just go down here a bit and see the sinister of this school, what the school really was. Let's look at Pythagoras and his beliefs for the moment. Just like our order, so this is a Freemason writing, the Order of Pythagoras has 3 degrees of membership. So they have the same membership degrees. Novices, novicettes, and mathematicians. And they both share the same identical thing. The teachings were secret. It says, just like our order, the 3 degrees of membership are novices, novicettes, mathematicians. This is Freemasonry. He was the first Freemason, the first Grandmaster Freemason. That's who Pythagoras was. So the entire notion of Pythagoras and his Pythagorean Theorem is a hoax. He stole it from Egypt. It has nothing to do with him. It was well known even to basic farmers. Okay? So, not the mathematician. Everybody knew and was using that in Egypt. So it's not like it was some secret. But he decided that, you know what, I could take that and bring it back to Greece. And this was part of Italy, and it's actually here. I'll show it to you. Says he was born on the island of Samos. So this is the island of Samos. Okay, But he taught philosophy of mathematics in Crotone, a Dorian Greek colony in southern Italy. So he brought it back to Italy, from Greece to Italy, and he brought it there. Okay, now the thing is that's really disturbing is this, what his school was. Basically, if you were a student at his school, you were a controlled student. That means that you never talked about what you learned there to anyone. It was novices, non-modest mathematicians. And the teachings were secret. So how on earth could someone say, okay, the sun works this way, but don't tell it to anybody. Or the clouds work this way, but don't tell it to anybody. You know the water cycle? Don't tell it to anybody. Why on earth would you not tell anybody about where they live? That is the most sinister thing I've ever heard. The reason why, in the end, it comes to simple. Control of the populace. Because you cannot have a rising populace. Because a rising populace will overthrow you. They'll challenge you. So by keeping the populace dumbed down, made sure that the bread and circuses of life are kept going, the entertainment is pumped out, has a very reminiscent image of what's going on in 2019. The biggest industry in the world is not manufacturing. It's not building things. The biggest industry in the world is entertainment, news. That's what it is. That's really what it is. 24 hours a day, they're trying to get into your mind with radio, with newsprints, or with visuals, with television. 24 hours a day, your mind is being constantly targeted to be pacified. And this is exactly what this is. Novices, non-mathematics, mathematicians. Okay, this is a pyramid scheme. The top of the pyramid, the middle, and the bottom. So basically, the top knows everything. The middle only knows what the top told them. And then the novices are only told what the middle told them. So the novices don't know anything. They're at the bottom of the pyramid. Whatever flows down, they do. So again, there's one thing I want to mention too, because I play music, and I never really knew about this until I read this document by this Freemason. Now, it relates to music. What about his insight into music? Okay, it says that it mentions actually the frequency of the A note, or a La. He was the first one to realize if two sounds vibrate at the ratio 2:1, i.e. if a string is vibrating at 88 hertz and another at 440, then the two notes are an octave apart. They sound the same, except one note is higher by an octave. But that's not really the interesting part, is this one. It says, it was because of these findings, the belief arose that the orbits of the planets considered harmonious would be certain ratios. The movement of planets has now been defined by Pythagoras. That occupied the minds of many of the ancients. So Pythagoras also set down the rules of movement of planets, which was used by other people later who used his theories to actually, make fake proofs of that theory. Since his theory was never proven, they just used a fake theory to prove more fake theories. So, Western music is based on a scale between octaves we divide into 12 notes. If you look at a piano, counting all notes, including black notes, there are 12 notes. Well, everybody knows that. Now, the issue here, if you look carefully at those numbers, at these ratios here, they are multiples of 3s and 2s. This raises a very interesting problem. What are the reasons for our brains being constructed in such a manner that we find these ratios of frequencies of vibrations pleasing? This is exactly what goes into classical music. They use these ratios. Here we go. This is known as the Mozart effect. Now, they did an IQ test that showed to expose them to Mozart music and another one to rock music. After half an hour, their IQs were tested again. The group that listened to Mozart scored higher in the IQ test because they were calmed down. For reference, the harmonious classical music have other beneficial benefits supported by The Economist and the article entitled Twilight of the Obs. The article reported how the use of classical music helped control mobs, and that in the A&E department of the Royal Walton Hospital, the playing of classical music seemed to make the patients calmer. Again, this is attributed to Pythagoras. That's what this document is attributed to. And it also goes into quantum physics. Even Dirac is on here, which is really incredible. I never knew that, that Pythagoras was influencing Dirac, okay? Einstein. He's the king of the hill when it comes to Freemasonry. So, in the precepts of the Anderson Constitution, Anderson referred to Pythagoras as a Mason. That's pure myth. Nevertheless, Pythagoras has significance for our craft, as we shall see later. Okay, Pythagoras held that reality, including music and astronomy, was at a deeper level. How on earth can these Masons, that's why you have to read between the lines here. They're saying, in the preface to the Anderson Constitution, Anderson referred to Pythagoras as a Mason. That's pure myth. It's not a myth. He is a Freemason. He's the first Grandmaster Freemason. He started Freemasonry. Because just before that, they tell you, just like our order. Now, if you are making an order, a brotherhood, wouldn't you come up with your own order? You don't say, you know what, I'm going to pick this. Maybe let's pick Pythagoras. It's close to what we want. You're following Pythagoras, therefore, your organization is the Pythagorean Society. Okay? It is that. So Freemasonry is Pythagoreanism. That's what it is. So now that you see who this Foster is and what he did and how he took that from Egypt, now you know who he is. And now we're going to explain the picture here and how bizarre things are here. It's just embarrassing. Freemason square, ball earth. An interesting picture here with the triangle, ball, and something in the middle, box with a triangle, and of course the music. I think this might be an old type harp, and a pyramid. More Freemason things here, and the pyramid. Another triangle at the top. So this has been another video here that was done today, and I hope that you liked it, and there was some information here that you liked. Leave any comments about it, and have a good day.